What is up, YouTube? Today we are doing Ask Diaphone. Now I know I've been away for a couple weeks. One, I had EVO, then I had COVID, so I haven't really been keeping up, which makes sense because we have 13 new posts, and I have a suspicion there's actually more than that. So let's go ahead and get right into the Ask Diaphone. You guys can ask your own questions if you go into my Discord. You can find the link in the description below, and feel free to ask your own questions. Some days I might be a week late, but it is what it is. First question. Multiversus, any chance you're trying out Multiversus? That's crazy. Is it actually a dead game? Let's actually check the Steam charts. I don't know. I personally don't have an interest in Multiversus. I tried it out when this is a dead game, by the way. Sorry, DNF Duel. I love you, but yeah, it's not looking very good for you. I tried Multiversus when it came out. It was fun. All right, this isn't a dead game. Come on, bro. 4,370. Also, a bunch of people in PlayStation are playing it. And I think it's more common because, you know, it's more of a zoomer game. So it's definitely not dead. But at the same time, it just doesn't appeal to me. I like platform fighters, but Multiverse is just, it's a little too floaty. I've tried it on stream. I don't really have an interest in playing it. And if I don't have an interest in playing, I'm not going to make guides. Even though I think I could do pretty well on YouTube and stream-wise playing Multiverses. Hey, what's up, Derp? I'm a Plat 2 Jamie, and I want to know how to improve more. So far, I've been practicing parry anti-air, DI hit confirm reactions, practice patience. What am I focusing on? So honestly, for people that I've coached in Plat 2, it's usually a few really basic shit, right? Like parry anti-air is kind of weird thing to practice. That's usually like something that's like reserved for master level players, and it's not like as guaranteed as something like a DP or like learning your crosscut anti-airs, right? So if you don't have your actual anti-airs down with Jamie, specifically DP, and making sure you do the right DP motions, right? Like if you play leverless, knowing how to do 3-frame DP or crouch DP, that's way more important than anti-air parry. And yeah, DI, like learning how to deal with DI is really important. Learning how to do hit confirms is really important. The other things I'd say with Jamie, for the Jamies that I've coached, usually they're missing like a key tool, right? So I think the last Jamie I coached was Diamond 1, and he never used Drive Rush, which is really weird because Drive Rush with Jamie into 5 heavy punch is really strong. And so make sure you're actually using that. Make sure like if they're not being aggressive, you're taking drinks. Because honestly, like there's a lot of things you can do and improve just with the basics, right? Making sure you're using crouch medium kick with Jamie. I'm guessing there's 1 or 2 things here I said that you're just not doing. Figure out what those are and start to implement that. And those are kind of like your low-hanging fruit. And getting the low-hanging fruit down is going to help you improve the fastest. Nuji, what makes top tiers in team games? Solo viability, if it any team or position, both. I think it depends. I think solo viability is usually like the last thing that kind of comes to mind, right? I was actually watching JM Cross tier list, right? He did one for MVC2, and it's really interesting because let's see if it, like what kind of separates a good character. Like there's certain things that are like top tier characters. So I don't know why they're not showing, but it's characters like Storm, Sentinel, Magneto, and these are all characters that need assists to thrive, right? Magneto really needs Psylocke to, you know, start getting the infinites going. Storm needs Sentinel to do damage because, you know, you DHC in the Sentinel. And the assist, like obviously who gives a shit about assist if they're solo, right? So because you're strongest in a team game, generally by your like with the full team, and especially a game that's very steamrolly like MVC2, you don't really give a shit about how they do solo, right? Because the vast majority of the time, if you're solo, you've already lost the game, right? But I think it depends. It really depends on the game, right? I think some games like BB Tag, the things that make a good character strong on point are also what make them good solo. So I'm trying to think of like some of the best solo characters, like Blake, for example, very, very strong solo. Ruby, very, very strong solo. But they're also good in teams because of all the things they had, like extra mobility and you know, good range on their normals. They also made them solo. So it's more of usually based it on a team. But I have a feeling like, you know, because I'm thinking of 2x KO, I think 2xk, you're more likely solo than like other team games. Also, BB tag, like there are certain characters like I want to say Rachel, and there's a couple other characters that are in Jin on launch. One of the reasons people thought Jin on launch was like S tier was because if he ever got into Resonance Blaze, which is like the solo comeback factor, he's one of the best characters, right? And so you could just pop Resonance Blade, keep spamming the super that did like 25% chip and a safe on block, and then you would like, you basically win the game. So yeah, it really depends. It really depends on the game and like how strong the comeback mechanics are. A game like 2xko, I feel like if you're solo, you're kind of fucked, so it doesn't really matter, as opposed to a game like BB Tag or Ultimate Marvel, where the comeback factors are really, really strong, and therefore it really impacts the tiers more. All right, Starlight. This is a fucking essay, I'm not gonna lie, so I'll try to summarize it. Patient low-risk gameplay versus pressuring and gambling. I want to play more like my GOAT Gamera. So I'm trying to space shit, but there's a lot of players who just run me down like a dog, like 6, always doing different approaches, and it feels horrible playing low risk. How can I play this defensive patient low risk playstyle without just being ran over and just gambling on their offense? Risk reward should be better, etc. So this is interesting, right? So you get ran over by, how I say, like 6. You know what happened to fucking Gamera? He got ran over by 6 at EVO. The favorite to win EVO got to play Riaza, who's a very strong player, don't get me wrong. They play 6, 4 rounds straight. Apparently is one of the quickest smokes I've ever, like, anyone has ever witnessed in a tournament setting, especially against Gamera. I didn't see it. It happened off stream. It was apparently super quick, 4 rounds straight. So it happens to everyone, right? There's nothing playing low risk, and I think in general, as you go up like these skill levels and like as you ascend like players tiers and you enter tournament play, you enter top level player, people are generally going to be playing less risky. That being said, a 6 can play risky or not risky, right? A 6 could do really hard reads, like they can jump on wake up, they can mash on wake up, they can do EX fireball on wake up, which like are not very good on paper. But a strong 6, they're gonna be blocking out shit more, but they're still gonna be choosing the strong options, right? They're still gonna be doing EX counter, but even though it's technically risky, it's such a strong option that you have to represent it, right? So to me, it's like if you don't represent EX counter, you don't represent DP or some of these things, then inherently you are taking on more risk because you're playing suboptimally, right? So that's the way I would recommend thinking about it, is just because you're playing really passive is what I think you're kind of referring to, isn't necessarily the same thing as low risk, right? And if you look at Gamera and what separates him and why he's so good is like he does play passive, but he uses that information to, how I say, like eventually gap, right? Like how I put this, like Gamera he's really like if you look at Gamera play and you're like, bro, what is Gamera doing? Like this dude's like literally just walking back and forth. He doesn't even do the most optimal combos. How is this guy one of the best players ever, right? Like it doesn't make any sense. And then you really like look at what he's doing, and he does like all this like small shit that's like imperceptible. Like he fucks with your timing, and he has really, really good reactions and that sort of thing, right? So if you want to play like Gamera, one, like find your own method consistency, right? Which is like, do the best things in terms of risk reward, which is like, pressing your offense, going for strike more than throw, that sort of thing, right? Even occasionally using DP is, theoretically good in terms of risk reward, but also do the thing like Gamera is like, what are the things you can control that don't rely on guessing, right? Because if you can react with an anti-air, or you can react to raging strike with a dodge, or you can in terms of Street Fighter, if you could check drive rush or you could check drive impact, that's as low of risk as you can get if your reactions are on point. So if you really want to play a low risk playstyle, it's try to focus on what you can like actually react and beat. All right, Ammo Wild Gust. I want to learn everything, but don't have that much time really to do so. Yeah, good fucking luck with that. I feel like I've been on a character crisis that isn't a character crisis because I'm having a lot of fun learning Marissa and taking her closer to Diamond and Mez. It sounds like the least issue ever. You're basically like, I want to learn these characters, and then you don't have all the time to like learn all the characters. That happens to me too. To me, like, there's not really any good solution for this. I definitely like sometimes I'll come away from watching this Granblue tournament and I'll be like, damn, like Fuselit makes Vasaraga look so fun. I really want to learn Vasaraga. And then I play Vasaraga for like an hour and I'm like, wait, like Fuselit's just fucking cracked and this is going to take a long ass time to get there, right? And I think that's like a shared FGC experience. I honestly think, and you just have to figure out like, you know, how bad do you actually want to learn the character and like figure out what you want to do. The way I see it is like, it's kind of hard to see the forest through the trees sometimes. And like, when I spend a lot of time with a character, I just do basic, like what I think is basic shit with Aki. And then like stream chat's like, oh my God, that combo was sick. And like, people feel the same way about your character if you get really good at it, right? And to me, like that's how I kind of get that satisfaction, or I kind of get that feeling of like, oh, like this is really cool to learn. Is like I'm doing the coolest stuff learn, and I'm sure other people like want to learn the character I'm playing because I'm playing them, but it doesn't feel like that because you're so much closer to that actual character than they are, right? So yeah, there's no good answer to this, but that's how I kind of internalize it. Is like, you are doing the cool shit, you're probably just like really close to the character. It doesn't feel like that. And every character is gonna have cool shit to do. How to stay consistent and consistently improve. Street Fighter 1300 MR. Feel like some days I can't win a single match in ranked. Yeah, everyone feels like that, right? Some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. There's no solution to that. It happens in baseball, right? People have slumps, people have hot streaks. Spoiler alert, that's gonna exist. That's gonna persist through human existence, right? Follow a warm-up routine. And try to analyze why I lose, slowly becoming redundant because you're doing the same things. Majority of my time is wasted when I'm playing the game. And I know how would you train? And here's my schedule, or set a timer, 30 minutes and break 30 minutes. And these just looks like there's some notes, some drills they can do, right? So yeah, I think my personal take on this is something that I struggle with too, because I often play, the most common way I play Street Fighter is unranked, right? And if I always play ranked on Street Fighter, like it does become very repetitive, and it's very hard to, how do I say, like find improvement, right? But when I notice my biggest gains, it's from doing multiple different things, right? It's going to in-person tournaments, it's playing online tournaments, it's playing ranked, it's playing long sets, it's trying new characters, it's doing all this shit. Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over, it's gonna feel really repetitive. It's not gonna feel as fun, and therefore you're not gonna be doing it as well, right? It's like going to the gym and always doing chest day, and you're like, damn, why can't I just feel sore, I just feel burnt out, and I'm not getting any bigger, right? It's like, yeah, you can get bigger just doing chest day, but there's better ways to do it by diversifying your routine. So I don't think there's like a you gotta find what works for best for you. But if you're spending most of your time just going into ranked and then figuring out what to lab based on ranked, then you need to find different ways to like actually play against people, right? Maybe it's replay review, maybe it's maybe it's recording replays and looking them at a time when you're not actually playing the game. I don't know, I have a lot of theories on this. I need to like actually put something together, but I think you need variety and you need to do a lot of different shit. That's kind of the general vibe. And my guess is I said one or two things that you're just not doing, and you need to start implementing them, right? Quality content. Question about buffering in Street Fighter 6. I see high-level people hitting a straight hit in the EX move or a super to close out the round, but how to know if the person blocked it or not? It's partially reactions. Closing out a round by hitting a stand light kick in the EX Gen right. Opponent block a stand light kick before. So there's a few different things, right? Do I actually have Street Fighter open? I can show you real quick. But the idea behind buffering in Street Fighter is there's a few ways. One, you can kind of state hit confirm, which is like if they're standing, how I say, right before the move hits, 95% chance they're gonna be standing as the move hits, right? And so you can kind of cheat it a little bit. This is what people used to do back in Street Fighter 5, where they would do like crouch medium kick, and they would like, if they stood right before the crouch medium kick hit, then they would like actually dial in the move. And so you could actually trick some people into buffer into doing the move by like standing up real quick and then blocking at the last second. Like, but there's other situations, like for example, like you see them whiff a button, it's a lot easier to like hit. Let's say I'm Aki, I'm trying to hit confirm into crouch medium kick, right? And I see this like jab whiff, then like I have that whole time where the jab's whiffing to like actually buffer it in, right? Because I'm always doing the motion, I'm always doing my double quarter circle forward, and I only press the kick button if it actually comes out, right? The other thing is like if I'm doing it here, they're only gonna get hit if they run into it or they stick out a button, right? So a really common like situation from Aki is like I could do this and then I could do that, or I could do like crouch heavy kick and then crouch medium kick, right? And then like you see here, let me try to get this. This is actually kind of hard to record. Let's see if I got it. So like you see how the super doesn't come out, right? But let's say like I try to dash in, then the super comes out. And there's like a bunch of little tricks like that. But you gotta figure out like what's the situation, and the more like experience you have, the better you'll get at like doing this. And also there's certain moves like crouch heavy kick, I can hit confirm this, right? So I'm gonna put the dummy on random guard, and I'm only gonna do the super when it comes out. So it depends. The answer to your question, unfortunately, is it depends, but I hope that gives a lot more context into why it depends. All right, how do you handle desperation when you're in low? Oh shit, hope the Deep Potemkin, what up? Having an issue with fighting games for a long time, it's not limited to Strive. How do you deal with handling desperation when you're low in health? I feel like if I'm on a big life deficit, I start taking bigger risks without thinking. I think a lot of people do that. Question extends to being down a round, game multiple games. I know I need to take risks to come back, but I feel like my defense and neutral awareness, just no dive. So this reminds me of football, right? So if you've ever seen like a how do I say, like a football game in the last quarter, what happens, right? And a team's up by a lot. One team is doing what they call prevent defense, right? Which means they play very conservatively, and the other team starts chucking Hail Marys. They start playing way different, right? And that's because oftentimes it's necessary, right? There's not nerves, there's not like anything to deal with it. It's just that becomes optimal sometimes. And honestly, sometimes when you're low health and you I don't know, for example, Street Fighter 6, you can't afford to take chip, you can't afford to like give your opponent drive gauge. Sometimes you do have to take more risk, right? But I think there's a lot to it. If I could give any recommendation here, is that one, this happens. Two, is being desperate actually a bad thing or a good thing? Because I feel like some people play better under pressure and some people don't. And I feel like if you actually have data to see if this is something that helps you or doesn't help you, you might get better context to this, right? And the third is, don't get into a big life deficit in the first place, right? Obviously easier said than done, but it's a lot easier to manage, right? And it sounds like you have a lot of control over that, and in theoretical that should be where you're playing the best, right? So yeah, to me it's a few things related to that, right? There's not an easy answer, and maybe some of it is mindset here too. I really don't know. I'm just kind of guessing based on this post. To me, I've always been good at making comebacks because I'm like, oh, well, shit, I'm most likely going to lose this match, right? I have an 80% health lead. Why not just go balls to the walls and do whatever I think is going to work? And oftentimes that's usually the most optimal strategy for me. And I feel like I'm pretty good at comebacks. So it's never been like something I've struggled with in the past. but at the same time, like, so occasionally I'll struggle with like throwing a lead because I want to play really conservative, right? Kind of like the prevent defense on in football. Some people say it prevents you from winning, right? I think this is like a time immemorial question. My recommendation is like, are you actually, because like if you're at a loss, like a huge life deficit, most likely you're going to lose that round, right? It doesn't matter what your mindset is. It doesn't matter if you're playing desperate or not. The big question is, are you losing more than like a similar Potemkin of your skill level is losing at those life deficits, right? And that's really what you have to ask yourself. And you know, you can actually derive data from that and see if it's actually an issue, because it might not be. It might be like more mental, right? And then focus on not getting into the life deficit in the first place, of course. EVO 2024. What did you learn about yourself as a player and content creator after EVO? What's up, Dave? Hope you're doing well. Oh damn, this is 4 questions. That's cheating, bro. It's asked honest, so you only get 1 question. What's my favorite thing to do in Vegas outside EVO? We actually got to, me and my wife really wanted to race supercars on a racetrack, and so we got some Porsches and we got to race them on a track, and it's pretty fun. And I passed my wife up, and then they fucked up the times and said she passed me up, and she holds that over my head till this day. But other than that, yeah, it was fun. We got to check out Fremont Street. We got to eat some good food. EVO is fun. Vegas is cool. Vegas is just expensive. It's hot. I'm not the biggest fan of Vegas, but we made the most of it. It was my favorite game I played. Probably 2XKO, because I played 10 hours, and I think it's going to be the future of fighting games, so I wanted to get my experience. But I actually probably enjoyed Hunter x Hunter the most, because I really like jank games like that. And what I learned about myself as a player and content creator, don't spread myself out too thin. I need to prioritize what's important to me, and I think I did that this tournament, but I also tried to take on a lot of extra commitment that didn't really matter. And so next tournament, I think I need to be more locked in on the things that actually matter, and not sign up for a million things. Oh no. Hey, I'm 100 hours on Rising, my first game, and I notice I've been getting better. That makes sense. 100 hours is not that much. So I want to know if I could find the stuff I need to know in guides, or is just time spent against better players. Probably both. Like the examples of how to make drills. Like, do you record the enemy jumping at you? You record 5 of attacks. Yeah, I think the most important drills in Granblue are definitely anti-airs, right? Anti-airs are super important. So it's like drill the opponent jumping at you and then running at you, right? And see if you can defend against both. Also learning how to like delay tech and like deal with 6XL, 6XL, 6XL. The other drill is like just practicing your combos and then making sure that if their opponent's mashing on wake up, that you can actually punish that, right? So that's just, you know, practicing your B&Bs over and over and making sure they loop into each other. And in my own offense, how do I learn to maintain my turn or make it risky for them to try and steal their turn back? I think in general, in any fighting game, learn how to beat mashing, because mashing is like the layer 1 scrub tactic, right? And if you can figure out how to beat mashing and you do that as your layer 1, and either 1, they get hit, then okay, just keep looping that, or 2, they aren't getting hit, that means you can start to leave bigger gaps and you can start to do other shit, right? So I like to think of it like that and just kind of go from there. So make sure you know your frame traps. Switching from modern to classic worth it? Generally, yeah, but I wouldn't do it until you hit like masters. But also, yeah, you've hit masters of modern ed. It's up to you. What do you find more fun, right? Because Tachikawa is with Ed. He's masters and he's still fucking cooking people. He's one of the best Eds in the world. So really, it's up to you. It's easier on my hand if it could play longer because carpal tunnel. I think if whenever it comes down to hand issues, like, don't risk your fucking hand health, bro. You can get way better with modern. Like, it's not really worth risking your hand health. Classic is definitely better, but modern is pretty viable, and I honestly think it's not that much of a debuff. So, and just most pro players play classic because that's what they're used to. Oh boy, hey, we're the pros of a coaching session. Can you explain how coaching works and is it effective and what can you learn from it, right? Elaborate on the main coaching focuses for different skills. What type of players benefit the most from coaching? Purchasing coaching lessons help you rank up faster. So yeah, I think let me talk about the cons of of coaching first, because I think that's easier, right? So I've said this before on Twitter and I still believe it. I think coaching is not worth it for 95% of the FGC, right? If your time, how do I put this? If you're a college student, you're in high school and you have a shit ton of time and not a lot of money, coaching's probably not for you, right? Because you can learn everything that I would teach you or another coach would teach you on your own, right? You can look up YouTube videos, you can play the game, you can you can ask other strong players, you can fucking ask me shit in chat, you can watch my videos. Like, there's a lot of things that you can get for free. That being said, there's a lot of people, I'd find at least like 50% of the people I coach, if actually probably more, are people that make quite good money and they have more money than time, right? Which means that even though they could get everything for free, it's more efficient for them to spend, you know, $90 or whatever to get a coaching session to put them on the right track and get that kind of like efficiency boost, as opposed to like spending several hours doing the same thing, right? And so you're basically trading, in my mind, you're trading money for extra time, right? Coaching generally, the most common coaching I do is we kind of talk about what your issues are, what you like, what you don't like. Almost every student comes with a bunch of questions. We go through those. Then we usually go through replays. I'll point out some like easy, low-hanging fruit shit for them to work on, and that's almost the whole hour. What makes a coaching session effective? It depends. I find that there's like kind of like a sweet spot. If you're too new, it's really hard for me to teach you shit, right? Like, I can obviously go over stuff like, here's how, and I've done this before multiple times, like, here's how you do a DP. This is the combo you need to learn. But like, really anyone can tell you that, right? So I don't think that's that effective. And then there's also like, I've coached people, I think the highest I've coached was 1800 MR. And it's like, I can teach you some stuff, but at that level, there's only so much you can teach someone, right? It's very incremental improvement. Like a coach can, like, let's say I can give you 3 hours improvement for 1 hour of your time, but 3 hours when you already have 1,000, 2,000 hours into the game, it's not going to make much of a difference, right? And so it's more of like, it's about mindset. It's more about like getting their mind to see things they're not seeing, and in order to like get improvement in the long run. But I often find those coaching sessions are like, it's kind of hard to get immediate gratification from people that are too good, right? Well, it's more of like a long-term thing. So I find like most people, it's that get the most benefit are usually like people in like low master, diamond, plat, if we're talking about Street Fighter specifically, because it's like there's usually very concrete things that they're just not doing or they need to work on that you can like point out, and then usually those are the people that are like, damn, this helps so much, like, thank you so much, and that sort of thing. Elaborate on the main coaching focuses for different skill. Usually it's the same idea. It's the same. Actually, I kind of talked about that. So yeah, I hope that helped, old boy. I do believe in coaching, but at the same time, like, it's, you know, it's expensive, right? And if you don't have the money, don't get coaching, because you can learn everything for free. Yeah, why do coaching if you can do Ask Diaphone? Exactly. I think we've covered everything. Oh no, we haven't. All right, the art of the choke. I feel like at the end of the round, when my opponent has, we actually just talked about this, has a very small amount of life, I tense up and start playing just half as good, causing me to lose rounds I should have won. How should I go about playing in those scenarios to feel more confident, right? So one is like, you have to play different, right? So for example, in football, you want to do the prevent defense, because mathematically it's probably the best thing. because you want to prevent the long gains. The short gains don't really matter. It's kind of the same way in Street Fighter. When you have a big life lead, you actually want to play different. If you don't practice that, and if you don't have strategies for that, it's going to be really hard to execute that in the moment. So to me, like, again, I'm going to guess Street Fighter because we're going to talk about Street Fighter a lot, but there's certain chip out situations that you can kind of force. There's burnout situations you can force. There's certain ways that like, you can get really easy hits. So for example, with Aki, I'll do a lot of crouch medium kick, crouch leg kick, because both of those, they're long range and they don't lead to much reward, but those attacks they're very safe to throw out, and they're not really risky. They just don't lead into that much reward, but it doesn't matter because they're gonna die whether I throw a fucking haymaker or I throw a quick little jab, right? So my main recommendation here is like figure out the strategies that will help you, and the better you have that strategy nailed down, the more confident you'll be in the long run. How to deal with losing RPS? So I get tilted when I lose RPS. I feel like I did a video on this. So yeah, so basically what you're saying is there's certain players, the vibe I get from this is like there's certain players that are much better at RPS because they implement better options like fuzzy guard and fuzzy jump and that sort of thing. And so it's harder to play, and therefore I get discouraged, and therefore I mentally get guard broken, right? Yeah, spoiler alert, that happens. And so when people improve their RPS on defense, this is the same way for every game, you need to improve your RPS on offense, right? And so if people are starting to use these fuzzy options, you need to start incorporating the shit that beats them, right? And no one on defense has a perfect rotation of all the things they should be rotating. And oftentimes people that use fuzzy options like fuzzy jump, they don't match very often, right? And so you can start to exploit that by doing delayed options and sort of your own counters to this, right? So yeah, you are required to be right on offense. It just means you need to structure your offense better to fight the people that are better at RPS, or rather they have more diverse selection of options, right? So yeah, is there specifically something to focus on to make sure that either I don't have to be right as much on offense, or just deal with the stress potentially being wrong, right? You're right in the sense that it's highly in your favor, but yeah, to me, in order to give up focus, or in order to loosen your focus on offense, you have to have the autopilot down so much, right? So like, for example, when you start playing really good players, you get more experience against them, and you realize, hey, this guy's fuzzy guarding, that you just autopilot, you think about it the next time, and you're like, let me do the counter to this fuzzy, so you're not really guessing, you're more of like knowledge checking them, and how I say, like exploiting their defense as opposed to just doing a blind guess. And to me, the better build out you have your flowchart, the less you need to focus on it. Hope that helped. RTJ, is it possible to train adaptation? Yeah, I think so. I can't adapt quickly enough to opponent's strategies, both in ranked and the few tournaments I enter. One, I think a good way to train adaptation is like just play longer sets. And if you play against people with really good adaptation, you're gonna realize those longer sets are fucking hard as shit, right? And that will help you get better at adaptation, because you can start to realize like the certain things you can adapt. And if you don't play a lot of long sets, it's gonna feel really weird at first, and you'll feel like you're getting into a lot of patterns, and all this like these weird shit starts to happen. And then you can start to notice that easier and shorter sets, right? The other thing I say is like, if you just have a better layer 1 game plan, where kind of literally what I was just talking about with Corona, which is like, if you recognize a certain kind of player that always does fuzzy jab and that sort of thing, and you're like, how do I deal with this? I can't adapt. The more people you play like that, the easier you'll be able to adapt, because you kind of have that like framework already built in. You have that flow chart of like, oh, this is a fuzzy jab patient kind of player, let me throw him more, right? So you just have to like kind of have that knowledge base built up, which just takes experience. It takes time. And I think that's it. Anyways, yeah, sorry for the long delay in the Ask Diaphones. I know this is a longer video, but glad we could do this and appreciate it. I think we had a couple questions in chat too. I can answer those real quick. When will I start your boosting services? They're open now. $250 to get the masters. Am I gonna play Illaoi in 2xKO? Yeah, but she's not gonna be my day one because I don't think she's like super amazing, at least in the EVO build. But we'll see. I think that's it. All right, cool. Anyways, like, share, subscribe. Take care, y'all. Peace.